Good evening, Grinders. Welcome to NFL pre-lock show here on RotoGrinders for the wonderful matchup between the Indianapolis Colts and the New York Jets. The current line are the over-under is 45. Colts are favored by 10 points. It's Thursday, so I'm always here with STL Cards. Justin Van Zuden to talk about probably the worst game of the entire week, as typical on a Thursday. Do you think that maybe it's not as bad? Mike White apparently is the next big thing, 400 yards and 3 touchdowns this past Sunday. So maybe this does turn out into a shootout.
I think we'll find out in about 4 hours that that's not the case. Yeah, it's a crapper here. It'll be interesting to fill the 50 minutes here before the game, trying to figure out who we want to play with the Jets and the Colts. I can't believe that the Colts have been good enough this year to be favored by 10 against anybody. But it's the odds makers are expecting the Colts to win this one comfortably, even though the Jets beat the Bengals last week. So this is an ugly game. The only thing that's not going to expectation is this would be a game you'd be expecting to see in London, because these are usually the games they put in London, but it's not. It's in Indy, and here we go.
And you can always get the odds of the game at scoresandodds.com. I have the screen up. You'd also get a perfect spread of all the books, of all the player props, of everything across the board, so you could line shop properly. But if you're going to bet at BetMGM, use the promo code GRINDERSBET. Right, you make a deposit there. You bet $10, and your team scores a touchdown. $200 in your pocket, no questions asked. Right, other than I guess it's free bets. I don't know. 200. They'll just give you $200, I think. So go to BetMGM. Use the promo code GRINDERSBET. And I see you guys in the YouTube chat. Feel free to give a little thumbs up. Helps us out. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. You can always post whatever you want in the YouTube chat. I pay attention to it. Even we'll scroll back. We'll talk about some stuff. So if you got any questions, any DFS strategy stuff, anything about these two horrible teams, feel free to post it in the YouTube chat. It's one of these, the Colts, Justin, in the past, have been one of those teams where like 8 people could get the ball. But in this specific game with the T.Y. Hilton out, with Marlon Mack is inactive. Okay, so that's the news, I guess. Deion Jackson is the third running back now for the Colts. We have Corey Davis, who's out for the Jets. That's kind of the big news inactives-wise. But it's weird to me that between both these teams, the Colts are the one with the most condensed production. So with them being a 10.5 point favorite, are we just trying to jam in as much like Taylor, Wentz, Pittman, like those key 3 guys, but you still have Pascal You got the tight ends. I mean, is this more of a jam? 4 of these, like 4 of them, 5 of them? I mean, it just seems like we'll know where the ball goes on the Colts side more so than the Jets.
Yeah, it seems that way. And I think, you definitely need to prioritize a couple of the Colts because of the factors that you mentioned. The Jets, they can still spread the ball around. Corey Davis is out. So, you maybe have a more unpredictable wide receiver group with the Jets tonight as well. Their running backs, it's been Carter lately, but you still got a couple other guys that could get involved there with P. Ryan and Ty Johnson. So, yeah, I think the Colts are the safer bets here, particularly with Mack inactive, Hilton out, and the fact that they're, favored by 10 as well. So, yeah, it seems like the Colts are the side that, most people are going to look to here.
Now, the Colts side from a captain perspective, Taylor, Pittman, Wentz, between the 3 of them, I made 30 lineups today. And I'm playing some in small field and some in the middle, the large field, whatever. The lineups with Wentz at captain, you have to, I think there's less routes for Wentz to be captain and you to be unique than if Taylor or Pittman. I have mostly Taylor captain lineups, and then I have some Pittman lineups. Then I mean, we'll talk about Zach Pascal. Zach Pascal is I think that the captain. I mean, I think Pascal could. I mean, he's someone that could catch 2 touchdowns. Maybe not have 100 yards, but if everyone's going to play Pittman and everyone's going to go down and pay $200 for Ashton Doolin, I think Pascal comes in under-owned for what could, I mean, as long as he catches a touchdown or 2, I mean, he could easily be the optimal captain. It's just that with Wentz in the captain spot, like if you use Wentz, you're most likely going to have to use like a Doolin type. You're going to have to use, I mean, because you want multiple pass catches, right? You're going to have to use 2 tight ends. You're going to have to use Taylor and Hines. Because the problem is on the Colts side, it's like other than Doolin, we have Desmond Patmon or Mike Strachan, or I mean, guys like that really don't see the field that much. I mean, Doolin sees the field more than them. Kylan Granson on the bottom. It's most likely than not you're going to have to use Ashton Doolin in those types of lineups, and I just think they're going to be more duplicated that way. That in a lineup where Wentz is the highest scoring person, and he throws 4 touchdowns. It's probably going to be to the receiver. Doolin's going to be one of them. But in a lineup where Pittman is the captain or Taylor's the captain, Doolin's sitting there with 1 catch for 9 yards, and it's unnecessary, and he goes over-owned. So I don't know what are your thoughts as far as the place in the captain? Do you feel more confident Taylor in the captain, being that is Deion Johnson now going to take this? I mean, Marlon Mack didn't play any snap. I mean, he played. He didn't get any carries in their last game. Are we confident that, I mean, we've seen Taylor disappear, right? Not disappear on purpose, but just not get 20 touches. So are you more or less confident with Mack inactive?
I don't think it changes a whole lot. I mean, Hines will still get his work, and I certainly don't think that Deion Jackson is going to be tonight's Derek Gore, that tilted everybody on Monday. But
at least we know he exists. I literally did not know that guy existed until I saw the guy carry the ball in the middle of the game.
Yes, it was a big shocker. And of course, Evan Ingram got there with a touchdown because tight ends on every showdown slate this year, except Kelsey didn't do anything.
It's cheap tight end. You have to play. It's a cheap tight end.
It's a cheap tight
expensive
end,
ones never get them.
I mean, I like Pittman and Pascal in the captain. I think, Doolin had 4 targets last week and a big goose egg. So it's not like he's this can't miss guy. And if you just want to presume that most of the targets go to their other 2 primary receivers, I'm fine with that. So, yeah, I like the other wide receivers in the captain. I think Taylor's fine. Certainly we've seen him disappear a lot, but generally not in these games. If the game goes according to the Vegas script, he should be fine. So I'm kind of with you. I don't love the Wentz captain lineups. Seems like they'll be hard to get unique and optimal together. So give me the other skill players for the Colts.
Right. You could make the similar type of lineups, but in the case, it's a matter of if Taylor rushes the ball in as a touchdown, like it takes away from Wentz's ceiling. So like if you have Wentz and the captain, and obviously you can still throw balls to Taylor, just that it's more likely that you want to start jamming in pass catchers with Wentz and the captain, and it's nearly impossible without using like an Ashton Doolin on the bottom. So like that's the main. If Doolin was barely owned, then I mean, if you want to do that and play one of the other guys, I mean, Desmond Patmon, who I'm assuming probably who returns their kicks. Does Hines?
I think Doolin used to, or Doolin was doing punts at maybe at least when we checked this a few weeks ago. Because they were on a showdown slate, but I don't know if he still is now that he's getting more snaps as well. Let me look back at the Titans game last week. So let's see. Colts. Doolin's returning kicks and Hines is returning punts.
Right. That's what I thought with Hines. Because I'm looking at like Patman, like Desmond Patman, like literally nothing. Like he's been active and no targets, his stat line is nothing. Then a Michael Straichan or whatever this guy. Okay. In the first 2 weeks, he had 2 targets and 1 target and then nothing since. We have him as 1 game played, so he was active. I mean, obviously, these are the types of guys that like they need to catch a touchdown to be relevant. I mean, like you can, oh my God, I got that 1 Straichan catch for 15 yards, 2.5 points. May not get you there regardless. Like if it does get you there, it'll be in lineups where you're jamming in all the salary and playing like Wentz at captain or Taylor at captain. So like those are viable. Obviously, you could use them, but I think the mid range in the captain spot is going to be ignored. I think we'll see some Colts defense captains. Not a big fan of that when they're 5,000. I think there's a lot of guys below them that could outscore the Colts defense. I mean, you could take a shot on Mo Alley, Cox, or Doyle. I'm not sure about Hines. Like Hines is more of a play if the Jets were up than if the Jets were down. So from a captain,
he's the contrarian game script play.
Yeah, Hines. But if anything, then you're building the opposite way. You're almost building 4 Jets, 4+ Jets into your lineup with Hines. Unless also understand that I have no problem playing Taylor and Hines together. Right. I think the negative correlation on this slate is very weak. But the way that Taylor could catch the ball out of the backfield, they do rotate running backs that probably I wouldn't play Hines in the flex if Taylor was the captain and vice versa. But I'm not opposed to playing. I don't have any lineups with both of them together, but I'm not specifically opposed to them. And the same thing could be said with Mo Alley, Cox, and Jack Doyle. Just understand that they're most likely not going to be on the same. They're going to be on the field at the same time. It's weird for me to say that my favorite play in this entire game. I'm playing 30 lineups, Justin. I have this guy in all 30 lineups. Can you guess who he is?
I mean, based on the way you're talking about Pascal earlier, I'm guessing it's him.
No. Oh, I never play someone at 6,600 and 100% of my lineups. He's in a lot of my lineups. But the cheapest guy that's on the Colts. I mean, obviously, I have some Doolin. I got 100% Michael Badgley, $4,400 kicker for the Colts.
Love your kickers tonight.
Well, I don't know. I don't necessarily love Amendola. It's just that if I'm going to get away, it comes down to a roster construction thing. I think Doolin is going to be overowned. So if I'm playing primarily lineups that are 4-2 or 5-1 Colts. So how the hell do I fit all that? I mean, like, there's no cheap Colts other than Doolin, really, other than some of these like really crap guys. So who is like take a look at the screen. Unless you take one of the cheapest, Badgley is literally the cheapest Colt. And give me 3 field goals. Give me this is also a reason why I don't have Wentz captain lineups. Because obviously in a game where the Colts kick, 3 40-yard field goals, well, it takes away from touchdown upside from Wentz, passing it into the end zone. So I'm high, and the projections are fairly high on Badgley. It's not going to be unowned or anything. He's going to be fairly well owned, but I just don't. We have him at 23%, but I think in this game he should be 30 to 40% based on just how lineups should be constructed based on these these projections. There's just no cheap Colts. There were more. Hey, if they had a third tight end, that actually saw the field, Kylan Granson's barely out there. Like, okay, I'd consider them, but there's nothing. There's more options on the Jets. Let's talk about the Jets.
Oh joy! It's time
joy!
to talk about the
joy!
Jets.
The Jets are a bad team, and they have too many people. That's
not a great combination.
No, that's not a great combination. Is the reason for that if you're going to play anyone from the Jets, it's probably Mike White at quarterback or Michael Carter at running back.
Yeah, and but they're also the most expensive. So, you can take a shot. Like, if you get the one-off Jets guy that has a big day, it certainly could differentiate your lineups and provide you a huge boost. But the problem is the likelihood of pegging that guy correctly is so much more difficult than the Colts, who are projected to score 10 more points. So I like, maybe trying to take a shot on some of their cheaper guys and hope that, you get the right pass catcher or something, but it's an exercise in guesstimating for the most part.
Well, I'm figuring that White and Carter, I know they're the most expensive, are the two like better ceiling plays, because the fact that we have that the Jets could spread the ball around to the point in which like none of anyone gets there. We saw Mike White's propensity to dump the ball off. So like Michael Carter is going to touch those are the two guys are going to touch the ball the most. Obviously the quarterback and the $8,600 running back. But it's quite possible that between Crowder, Moore, Berrios, Cole, Mims, Griffin, even maybe Jeff Smith for a play, I think it's more likely that, like, if Mike White throws for 2 touchdowns and 250 yards, it's quite possible that Mike White is the one that has the highest score out of all the receivers. That even at just 250 and 2, a lot of times at 250 and 2, if a primary wide receiver that has gone 8 for 80 and a touchdown will outscore them. But it's quite possible on the Jets that no one has that line. Like, it's quite possible that none of these receivers have more than 4, maybe 5 catches, other than maybe Carter. So to me, I view it as, if I'm going to play a lineup with like 5 Colts and 1 Jet, I'm more likely to have it be White or Carter. I mean, obviously, if I could fit them in. To me, those are the 2 like staples. If I'm building 4-2 Jets lineups, it's going to be one of those 2, and then a cheaper guy, and less so on a guy like Crowder has like the pedigree as that, like, low A dot type of receiver, and the Colts defense tends to play that cover 2 type of shell, which give up the small passes, don't give up the big passes. So I could see the case for Crowder, but the same case for Crowder is the same case for Carter, because Carter's going to be running in those zones also. So like for me on the Jets side, like outside of White and Carter, I think you might as well just close your eyes and just hope for the best.
Yeah, it's basically playing roulette with their pass catchers. Moore, Cole, Mims, their receptions props are all 2.5.
What's Crowder's?
Crowder's 5.5.
And then how about Carter?
I can't even find one for the tight ends. Carter's 4.5. And Carter had 13 targets last week, 14 targets last week, and 9 the week before when White came in the middle of the game. So, Carter, yeah, he profiles as the guy. I don't know. I don't trust the Jets. Just roll Ty Johnson. Ty Johnson has 13 targets the last 2 weeks too. So a ton of targets for the running backs basically is what we're getting with Mike White, and White threw for 400 yards last week with that approach. So yeah, it's hard not to like Carter for sure.
Right. I'm taking a look at some of these reception props, these receiving yards props for the Jets. Elijah Moore, 27.5, Mims, 35.5, Cole, 22.5, Croft, 9.5, Ty Johnson, 21.5. Crowder's the highest, 53.5. But is that significantly enough that you should be paying $7,800 for him versus the other guys? Michael Carter, 36.5.
No, and Carter's going to get rushing yards too. I think Carter is clearly the play. Like Cole played on more snaps than Crowder. Keelan Cole played on more snaps than Crowder last week. Crowder, the 4 games that he's played, 80% is his highest snap count. I mean, he's not even out there for every play, and he's been injured, a few times. I don't know. Crowder at that salary and 30% ownership, I don't love it. I think he's safe enough, but I don't know. I just don't love playing chalky Crowder at that salary. I mean, you gotta sacrifice somewhere, right? If you're playing Taylor, or you're playing Pittman, or you're playing Wentz, or you want to play Carter, you can't play all these guys. So Crowder, I just don't think there's a huge ceiling there. Like his props are 5.5 and 60-ish yards, and he's plus 225 to plus 250 to score a touchdown. So, you're looking at a line of like 5 and 60, which I don't think gets the job done at that salary. So give me the other guys that are cheaper, and I'll just hope that the targets are spread around enough, or just play the running backs.
Right. I see these touchdown props for the Jets players. We got Ty Johnson at plus 320, Griffin plus 800, Carter plus 165, Keelan Cole plus 400, Elijah Moore plus 320, Berrios plus 700, Crowder plus 225. I mean, look, Crowder has a lower touchdown prop than Pascal does. Like on the other side of the game. Like obviously Jonathan Taylor's minus 227, the most likely. But yes, Crowder is their best receiver. I think the question comes in is he enough of the best receiver that he should be 7,800 compared to everyone else? Like Elijah Moore 6,200. I think that's overpriced. I mean, truthfully, I think most of the Jets are overpriced as it is, right? For this game, but you got to play him. So like Berrios at 3,800 is overpriced. I think more likely you're playing Cole or Mims. Down in 2,400 for Cole, 2,000 for Mims. But I mean, this is not going to be a high volume passing attack, as it's not expected to be. I think you're just hoping. I'd rather have a line like it. Would you rather have Jamison Crowder 5 for 60 or Keelan Cole 2 for 20 and a touchdown? Like, well, 2 for 20 and a touchdown at 2,400 is worth much more than 5 for 60 at 7,800. I think Carter's more likely to have a line that's like 60 yards rushing and then like 8 for 50, right? And no touchdowns even, right? 8 for 50 is what? 13 points plus the 60 yards rushing is 19. Like, there you go. I think he's much more viable in that spot. And he could beat out White even with White throwing 2 touchdowns, right? White puts up 250, which is what? 10 points, 2 touchdowns. That's 18, right? Michael Carter, that 60-yard, 8 for 50 line is higher. So I just think that's why in a lot of my lineups, like that one-off Jet, I'm focusing more on White and Carter. And yes, I do have some of the other Jets. I am playing at 30 lineups. But that's who you should focus. And if you're gonna captain anyone, Justin, I mean, how do you captain anyone on the Jets other than White or Carter? I mean, like, dude, I mean,
yeah, I don't think there's going to be the volume for the other guys to make it worth captaining them, at least with any type of feeling good about it. So, I mean, you brought up the point about Crowder and his props compared to Pascal, and Pascal's 1,200 cheaper on DraftKings, and has much higher touchdown equity given the nature of the game and the fact that the Colts are favored by so much. So I just, it's hard to feel great about a lot of these Jets, and I don't really have a ton of confidence in White's ability either. But if he's just going to dump it off and get easy yards, like, okay, well, I mean, it's going to go to Carter, you'd think, given his targets from last week. So I meant to look and see how many pass attempts they had last week. Hang on.
what, the Jets?
Yeah. So White threw the ball 45 times, and 14 to Carter, 6 to Ty Johnson. So 20 targets out of 45 to the 2 running backs. So Josh Johnson came in and threw 4 passes also, but Carter 14, Ty Johnson 6, Crowder 9, Moore 6, Mims 3, Cole 5, Croft 2, Griffin 1, Berrios 2. I mean, so see, you're getting a lot of guys with 2, 3, 4 targets, which is what you're going to see with those secondary guys. You're going to see Carter and Ty Johnson and Crowder, soak up most of the target. And I think, Moore's okay, but he caught every single target last week. So like you said, he feels just a little overpriced. But he is a talented kid. I have no issue with Moore and long term. But tonight, I don't know. He's fine. I think I maybe like him just a little bit more than you do, but that's
Well, I think it's more due to the fact that I'm playing so many Colts in my life.
Right, for sure.
Like Daryl Hodgkins says in the YouTube chat, if they're down, you don't think they'll pass more. I think that's the issue that we're talking about. Is not that we don't think they're going to pass more, just that 40+%, 45% maybe to the running backs. And then the rest is going to be to 5 different receivers and tight ends. And do you think this is the game where Crowder gets 15 targets? Well, if you think so, then yeah, then he's worth 7,800. But if we see the Jets offense, even before, I mean, even when they had Sam Darnold, even with Crowder, I mean, he wasn't seeing 14 targets. I mean, the ball was still spread out enough, and it's spread out inefficiently. Right? I don't expect Mike White to throw 45 passes and go 40 for 45. Right? He's throwing 45 passes and only completing 28 of them. So it's like, yes, they may be passing more, but how many 7-yard passes do you need to rack up that they're going to be split 9 different ways? I mean, right, Justin, that's kind of the point we're making. It's not that the Jets aren't going to be playing from behind, most likely. And they won't need to pass more. But compared to the Colts, I mean, the Colts don't have that many viable players on the slate to play. It's very condensed. Well, the Jets are all spread out, so I'm less likely to focus on one of them, and I'm more likely to focus on the ones that are cheap. And you're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, if you look at Crowder's targets, he actually started last year, 2020, with 4 straight double-digit target games. He doesn't have a double-digit target game since. So that is the last 8 games that he played in last year, and all 4 games he's played in this year, he doesn't have a double-digit target game. That's 12 in a row. So there's not a huge ceiling with Crowder, and he doesn't have any 100-yard games in that span either, and only 5 touchdowns. So I don't love paying up for Crowder. The other Jets skill players are unpredictable with very low floors. And that's why it just seems to make more sense to play the Colts guys. And, somebody else brought up a good point in the chat too. You might see the Colts play a little, more aggressive defensively, play close to the line, try to prevent White from being able to check down and try to make him beat them deep. But then that could change, if the Colts get a big lead, they back off defensively a little bit more. Then, you're still seeing those checkdowns. So White's going to do the same stuff he did last week because it worked last week. He threw for 1 billion yards. So I still think that Carter and Johnson are going to get their targets.
Right. How about on the cheap end of the spectrum? I mean, we do have Jeff Smith, LaMichael Pirine. I mean, a third running back. I mean, in this range that is under the kickers and the defenses. I mean, we have the Jets defense, we have Matt Amendola, but I think reasonably enough, I think Cole could get there. I think Mims could get there. I think Ryan Griffin potentially he could catch a touchdown, and Doolin. I mean, is there any? I mean, is Jeff Smith? I mean, what was he, the 5th wide receiver?
Yeah, he barely played last week. Let's see, 20 snaps. Berrios 20 snaps, Moore 30 snaps, Cole 55 snaps, Crowder 51 snaps. So, I mean, Cole has been playing the most, and he doesn't necessarily have a big ceiling himself, but 5 targets last week. I don't mind Cole at 2,400.
Isn't Cole in their red zone packages? I don't think Mims is.
What red zone packages?
Well, you understand what I'm talking about. When they happen to be there, Cole is more likely to get that, corner route in the end zone. Yeah. Mims is a field spreader type of guy.
Right.
He's going to be in between the 20s. And
Mims has to catch a long one probably to get a touchdown. And he's fine for GPPs, I guess, but and he played, let's see, he played 59. He actually played a couple more snaps than Crowder did last week, Mims. So Mims, Cole, Crowder are probably going to lead the way in snaps there. And Mims and Cole are super cheap. So I don't mind them. It's just they're not exciting.
FanDuel. I know we talk about DraftKings primarily. FanDuel 5 slots, MVP. I mean, it's hard in the MVP not to play one of the main 3 Colts guys, but you can make a case that, I mean, Michael Carter could be the winning MVP on the Jets.
He very well could be, yeah, if the production keeps up like it is. I mean, if he's going to get double-digit targets and carries, for sure, he could be there. And you could even play Carter and not have a whole lot of other exposure to the Jets and still play Carter in the captain or Carter in the MVP on FanDuel. So, and then a team full of Jets.
Dan Janning asks in the chat, how about something like White and the captain with 3 Jets pass catchers? I mean, you could play that way even if the Jets are behind. I mean, the problem that I see with the Jets is more of the, like, where are the targets? Where's the production going? And are they going to have enough points to make like the optimal lineup? And that could work out if, like, the problem comes in is that if you think the Colts wins this game and you jam, like, let's say White and 3 Jets, let's say you play White with the Barrett, with the Moore, Crowder, Cole and Mims or something, whatever. And then you just go, I'm going to play Carson Wentz and Jonathan Taylor. Like, well, if the Colts win that game, it's most likely that Wentz and Taylor are the ones with the higher points that you'd rather have in the captain spot. So, like, if you're going to play with the Mike White captain, you're playing for him to throw 403. You're playing him to throw like what he did last game. So that to me, that's where the problem comes in, is that, like, in a scenario where the Colts win, I think it's more likely that, like, White isn't cheap. Like, I'd be more inclined if you played like Carter in the captain, White in the flex, and then 4 Colts. Like, that to me makes a little bit more sense. And hey, if you want to take a shot on a cheap, Keelan Cole or something like that and build a lineup that way, it's hard for me to see in a Colts win that White ends up being optimal in the captain spot when you have Pittman, Wentz, and Taylor above, and Carter below.
Unless the Colts get a defensive score or 2, maybe that throws a wrench into the plans. That would be the path.
Then you probably need the Colts in your lineup also.
But when's the last time we've had a defensive touchdown on a showdown slate?
The last time that a tight end didn't score in a showdown slate.
So never. It just feels like it's been a long time. Somebody is in the chat that knows.
Yeah, it feels like, I mean, I don't play showdown that often on Sundays, but I mean, I do shows. I do this Mondays and Thursdays. I don't remember the last time a defense or a special team scored a touchdown.
Somebody help us out in the chat if you remember a defensive touchdown on a showdown slate. I'm genuinely curious now. Anyway, that would feel like the only path. Like, if the Colts, it's got to be something fluky. If the Colts win, for it not to be Wentz or Taylor, a tight end rushing touchdown or something, we've seen a few of those, but we'd think otherwise. One of those big 3 Colts has got to be the optimal captain if the Colts are winning the game.
Okay, so we got about 15 minutes left. Feel free to post your questions in the YouTube chat. Let's talk about Slate IQ, which is a part of our premium package. Okay, so if you sign up for RotoGrinders, single sport or all the sports, we have NBA going on, right? We got NFL normal stuff. We got MLB just wrapped up, right? MMA, big UFC card coming up on Saturday. We got soccer projections for EPL, Champions League. Sign up PGA, right? We've got cards here, even in the swing season with the garbage events, right? We still got all the analysis for golf. So sign up, click on that link in the description, get $10 off your first month. But one of the things that we do for our premium members, premium content, we also have other premium content as well as projections, and you get the lineup HQ tool to use, is Slate IQ for Showdown. which is basically we use a simulation methodology using our projections, our ownership, and we play out this slate thousands of times, 10,000 times. We look at historic slates in the past that are very similar to a spread, the total, the types of teams, a game archetype. And then we just simulate that over and over again. We use our computer power, right? Jamino has the hamster wheels running, and it comes up with like what types of lineups show up in the top 0.1% of large field. This is for like the large field DraftKings GPP. So like historical, from a roster construction perspective, the highest leverage by far are favored, are winning team onslaught lineups. So this is absurd. So 5-1 players from the winning team. Now, obviously, with the Colts being a 10.5-point favorite, you have to assume that that's 5 Colts. But understand, if the Jets win, like this could be 5 Jets, right? So 5-1, 4-2, barely any 3-3s, almost no 2-4s, and like non-existent 1-5s. So basically, whatever team's going to win today, it's more of an onslaught. And although, people are going to lean in that direction, still, it's probably not going to be owned enough. And then we take a look at the historical captain usage, get positive leverage on RB1, wide receiver 1, and also DST 1. So Colts defense, tight end 1 also. So we have Jonathan Taylor. We got Wentz here. It's a little negative leverage. Michael Pittman, Colts defense. Mo Alley Cox, or vice versa. I mean, it could be, Jamison Crowder. It could be Mike White, right, on the other end of the spectrum. That's for the historical captain uses. But then we could simulate this slate specifically. And these blue bars and yellow bars show, based on the top 0.1% of lineups, what percentage of lineups had a certain player in the captain spot. Now, Carson Wentz, he's going to be owned in the captain 18.95% of the time, but he's going to show up as the optimal captain 22.69% of the time, which means he's not going to be owned as much as he should be. So these are the ways to identify plus EV decisions you could make in your lineups. Essentially, in DFS, what we're looking to do is we make money when we play players and play types of lineups that have a higher probability of winning more money than what the field will do. So from a positive leverage perspective, we have Wentz in the captain, Taylor in the captain. Pittman is slight negative leverage. Michael Carter is positive leverage. Zach Pascal is almost twice the leverage, right? 5.74 in the captain, but he shows up optimal in the captain 9.87% of the time. So you can see here, based on what I said earlier in the show, like, oh, this kind of fits with the lineups that I'm playing. Right, that's exactly why I'm playing, right? I'm playing 30 lineups, and they kind of fit to these percentages. So Mike White in the captain is slightly negative leverage. Jamison Crowder is absurdly negative leverage in the captain, right? We have a lot of these Jets players that are negative. We even have the projected flex usage. Carter's positive in the flex, but about equal in the captain, right? Michael Pittman is negative in both. Michael Pittman's going to be over-owned. He's still highly likely. Remember, he's still like third most likely captain. It's just that he's going to be a little over-owned. So if you're going to play him in the captain, try to be a little bit more different. And most of these Jets in the flex, I mean, look at the Jamison Crowder in the flex. 31% owned, but only shows up in the optimal 17% of the time. So you could use this type of tool, this type of content that we put out for every Island Showdown slate for NFL, and see what the sim said, right? These are all simulations, and you don't have to agree with it, right? You could say, no, I'm gonna play Ryan Griffin in the captain. It's like perfect. There's a percentage of the time that happens. It's just not very high. So you can see here from Showdown Slate IQ, I pretty much, this is how I build my lineups. So and I've won Showdown 3 times, once uniquely, and more times than not, the best lineups, the top 0.1% of lineups will look like the ones in the simulations. So does that mean, Justin, that the leverage play is not Colts onslaughts, but what happens if the Jets just win this game 38-3?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely less likely to happen, but those builds aren't going to be as common. I mean, you basically laid out why you built your lineups the way you did with the Colts onslaughts and the fact that, the leverage that shows. It makes sense that that's the way to go tonight. And I like the fact that it's kind of not as high on Jamison Crowder. I don't love him tonight. So it's super contrarian to build those Jets onslaughts, but hey, we've seen stranger things.
I didn't build any. But if I was playing 150 set, I'd probably have 10. I'd probably have 10 Jets onslaughts and go, you never know. I think it's more likely that on a short week, I think we're more likely to see the real Jets, not the Jets from this past week. I think we're much more likely to see a game that ends 38-3 for the Colts than 38-3 for the Jets.
Sure.
But you never know. Right, this could be a garbage game. This could be, Colts win 15-6, and it's all field goals.
That's what you're hoping for with your kicker lineups.
Well, only for the Colts. I don't want the Colts kicker to be the captain. I just want the Colts. Give me double digits from Badgley, and I'll be fine. And if you look at his game log, Badgley, he doesn't kick that often. But if you've seen the Colts past couple of games. They apparently every game they get 2 or 3 pass interference calls.
Yes,
at the 1 yard line.
Throw the ball up. That's the best offense in the NFL right now. Just throw the ball up in the air, underthrow your receiver a little bit, let him go up and get the pass interference every time.
Right,
Wentz does this every week.
Well, isn't that the same thing? Like that, you shouldn't be running the ball on 2nd and 10, right? You shouldn't be throwing the ball on 3rd and 1. You should be going for it on your opponent's 40-yard line, no matter what. And if it's 3rd and 20, just chuck it 50 yards, and you probably get pass interference 33rd of the time, regardless of where you're throwing the ball. Why not do
it? Yeah, even. I don't see why not. It's a foolproof plan. I don't know. Pass interference calls it's usually beneficial if you can perfect that underthrow, let the receiver go back into it and generate the contact. And it's like the old NBA foul call, the old James Harden, just go in and, get yourself a foul and get some free throws. But I don't know. I don't love the pass interference rule in the NFL, the way they call it. At least I don't think it should be a spot foul every time, but that's another story for another day.
Should they award the point? No, I don't care about the NFL. I want the points. I want the points in fantasy, right? They chuck the ball up. Zach Pascal, 40-yard pass and pass interference. Like I don't get anything.
Get the yardage points or half 50% of the points.
Give me the reception point. Give me the point for the reception at least. Give me a consolation prize or something. Because there's nothing worse in DFS, Justin, than having the passing stack. Like you have Stafford and Cup or something like that. You have Rodgers and Adams. You have Mahomes and Hill, and it's a 60-yard pass interference on at the inside the 5 or in the end zone. Even worse, right? It's a pass interference in the end zone, and then the running back comes in and gets the 1-yard touchdown. Right? You're just sitting there going like if he would have caught that would have been like 15 points for me. And now it's like, I get no points for that. And my opponents who have the running back now beat me. But it's obviously the other way around. You love, I mean, if you have the running backs, you love seeing, you have that goal line back. You have Josh Jacobs. You love when, Brian Edwards gets a, pass interference in the end zone. It's like, okay, Jacobs 1-yard touchdown, just easy game it is.
The beauty of fantasy football when that happens. Feels like it goes against me more times than it goes for me, but that's just bias because, you remember the times you got hosed by it more than the times you benefited from
it. Daniel Hutchins in chat says September 27th, Eagles Cowboys. Eagles recovered a touchdown in the end zone. That's the last time that a defense DSD scored points on a island showdown.
Would have
game.
been like week 2 or 3 then.
No, September 27th. So what, week 3? I mean, we're still talking about that. That's like 6 weeks ago, 5-6 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, when you have 3 a week, plus some of the London games that that had showdowns, it's been 12 or 13 games. That's
When's the last time tight end didn't score a touchdown? That's a better.
prior to that.
Let's see. Going through. Dan Jennings says, if you're playing Pascal captain, do you play Pittman? I don't mind playing both. I mean, most likely you're playing Wentz.
Yeah, I was gonna say you probably need Wentz in the flex then too.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, if I'm playing 5 Colts, I don't mind.
Sure.
It's essentially, if I have Pascal captain, I have Wentz in the flex, and I have one of Pittman or Taylor. So it's perfectly fine to play Pittman because you're not playing Pittman for a ceiling. Your Pascal gets 6 for 60 with 2 touchdowns, but Pittman still has like 8 for 100. And it's like, okay, well, that's I still win that way if he beats out Taylor. So that's perfectly fine. Pittman or Mike White in cash. They're projected just about the same. My natural inclination, Justin, for cash games is to go with the quarterback.
Sure, you get a pretty good base floor there.
Yeah, but it's also the Jets quarterback.
But he threw for 400 yards last week. He's Superman. I'd still go with White in cash, but I'm not super in love with him in general. I just think the floor, even with a Jets quarterback, they're probably gonna be behind. They're probably gonna have to throw. He just makes sense, I think.
Or maybe it's better to just go Pittman. You can think of it in 2 different ways. Like, obviously the quarterback traditionally has a higher floor because they touch the ball every play. But like, if you're just like, I'm just finding some way to play Taylor, Wentz, and Pittman in my lineups. Like, it doesn't, to you, it doesn't matter. Like, nothing hurts. Any cult score pretty much doesn't hurt you. Because you just make sure you get all of it. It's very similar to the NBA, where like you have 2 or 3 guys out and the team's running like a 7 or 8 man rotation. And it's like, well, in GPPs, you're probably not playing 5 of them. But in cash games, it's like, just play 5 of them, and you don't have to worry about, well, did I have the right guy that put up 40? It's like, no, you get it. If one puts up 40 and the other puts up 12, you still get 52 points. So you could view it from that perspective of maybe you just rather play Pittman because maybe Pittman's going to be owned enough in cash games that you just rather take as much of the Colts production as possible.
Yeah.
And if Mike White beats you, Mike White beats you.
And Mike White would have beat all of us last week. But I don't think you're necessarily doing it wrong either way there.
Dan Janning, would fading Doolin for a tight end be better for large field?
I think so. Like Doolin had 4 targets and goose egg last week. Now, because
also TY was in last week.
I've mushed Doolin, and I've also asked when the last defensive touchdown was. So Doolin is totally taking a kickoff to the house tonight.
Right, the double dip, right?
That's happening now.
Right, you have to play. If you're playing the Colts defense, you play Doolin or Hines. It's more likely that a kickoff gets returned for a touchdown than a punt.
Yeah, you just don't see too many kickoff returns anymore because there's so many touchbacks. But Doolin did have 3 returns last week. You just don't see a whole lot of kickoff returns.
Because but punt returns you rarely see as touchdowns because the coverage. I mean, you don't get that head. You don't get that like nice 15-yard kind of head start as you're gaining steam on a kickoff return. A punt return guy is kind of catching the ball, and within 4 yards, they're typically getting hit or running into a blocker.
I think I saw this last week. How many punt return touchdowns do you think there have been this year?
I don't know. I'm going to get in total.
Yeah, this year, punt return touchdowns.
1.
0. Not a 1. There have been 2 punt returns of 40+ yards. One by Devin Duvernay and one by Jalen Darden. No touchdowns, though.
How about kickoff return touchdowns?
Kickoff returns, stand by. Kickoff returns, we have had, looks
4?
like just 1, 2,
really?
3. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, yeah, I remember a couple.
Travis Homer, DeAndre Carter, and Jamal Agnew, 3 kickoff return touchdowns.
Well, Travis Homer is that's a different. That happened we remember that was they tried the onside.
Yes,
kick.
I was gonna say, it was only 40 some yards. That's right. Okay. Well, it
Right.
counted as a kickoff return touchdown.
Well, I mean, it is a kickoff. I mean, the Seattle Seahawks got it credited for a kickoff return, but technically that's not what we're not talking about someone taking an onside kick.
Carter's was 101 yards and Agnew's was 102 yards. So 2 legit ones. No punt return touchdowns.
Okay, so that just seals the fate for the Doolin plus Colts lineups.
Definitely.
Right. Okay, we are at lock. Hope everyone got a lot out of the show as usual. Hit that thumbs up button on your way out the door. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. I'll be live tomorrow morning as usual, 11 a.m. Eastern for the DFS pregame show. We got tons of content here. NBA Grinders live. We got tons of stuff. And Justin, you're in a lot of the PGA. What garbage event is happening this weekend in the PGA?
The Mayakoba Championship there in Mexico this week, and then we got 2 more events back in the States before the December break. So it will be 2 more chances to win some money in the calendar year.
What garbage golfer is priced $10K this week for the Mayakoba?
Actually a pretty strong field.
It's a pretty okay. I'm typically like some weird guy or something.
Yeah, no, you got Justin Thomas and Victor Hovland and Answer and Scheffler. So it was actually a pretty good field this week.
Oh, okay.
Pretty good.
Did you like the events where it's a weak field and there's a couple of very strong golfers, or do you like the events where like the highest price, like you get the guy that's normally 7,200 that's priced at 11,000 because like everyone sucks?
In theory, I like those better because there's more of an edge, but I've generally sucked at those lately. So recency bias is telling me I don't like those events. Okay. But in theory, there's more edge there.
Right, because they're priced a certain way, and really the golfers aren't that widely
right
different in talent. But how about the events where it's half and half? Like I remember playing PGA where it'd be like Dustin Johnson and then like no one else, and he would be like 12,000. So like a lot of people would end up playing him. And like, I would just not make those lineups. And then you know what would happen? He'd go out and beat everyone by 12 strokes.
The first guy off the tee today was Chris Kirk. He hit a hole-in-one on a par 3 on his first hole to start the tournament. So if you didn't play him, he was like 20%. And he was like 6,800. So the chalk guy got there with a hole-in-one on the first hole. But yeah, it's DFS golf. It's fun.
Right. But you could get all of his PGA content as well as the basketball stuff, the football stuff. But behind the paywall, RotoGrinders Premium, hit the link in the description, get $10 off your first month. And if you're going to bet on the game, live bet, right? Use BetMGM. The promo code is GRINDERSBET, all one word, GRINDERSBET. You make a deposit, you bet $10. If your team scores a touchdown, $200, easy peasy. So for Justin Van Zuden, STL Cards, I'm Jordan Cooper, Blender Ed, Blender HD. And this has been another edition of the NFL Pre-Lock Show here on RotoGrinders.com.